Chad Johnson was born on January 9, 1978, and spent his early childhood in the pocket of Miami that many would consider unforgiving. According to Johnson, that area resembled a real-life version of Grand Theft Auto Vice City, complete with hustlers on the corners, sparse opportunities for kids to move beyond the streets, and a palpable sense of daily danger. Raised primarily by his grandmother, he found an escape in football, a sport where his outsized personality would one day flourish. From the time he was a child, people noticed his speed and ability to make difficult catches look routine, and there were doubts about whether his mindset and grades would ever allow him to fulfill his potential. Despite his obvious talent, Johnson's high school years were marked by behavioral issues and a lack of academic focus. Coaches at the Division I level stayed away, put off by the red flags that hovered over him. Rather than joining a big-name college program, Johnson enrolled at Santa Monica Community College. There he met wide receivers coach Charles Collins, a mentor known for his direct, sometimes harsh approach. Collins famously told him he wasn't worth a turd yet, using that crass assessment to motivate the raw but gifted athlete to shape up both on and off the field. Initially stung by such bluntness, Johnson soon recognized that Collins' demand for higher effort and discipline were exactly what he needed. He slowly improved, but academics remained a stumbling block. Johnson missed the 1998 season due to being academically ineligible, a wake-up call that forced him to finally realize talent alone wouldn't secure his future. After 3 years of junior college football, Chad Johnson got his grades in order and transferred to Oregon State. Playing under head coach Dennis Erickson, he showcased his speed and route-running capabilities in a breakout campaign, helping the Beavers achieve an impressive 11-1 record. Scouts from multiple NFL teams began to take note of the slender, lightning-fast receiver who could snatch any pass out of the air. His college highlight reel emphasized a seamless route runner with an ability to make defenders look foolish in open space. It came as no shock when the Cincinnati Bengals selected him 36th overall in the 2001 NFL Draft. The Bengals, mired in a streak of losing seasons, hoped Johnson could help reverse their fortunes. Arriving in Cincinnati, he was all optimism, professing that he didn't mind the team's struggles and that he intended to transform the Bengals into winners. That unbridled enthusiasm soon became legendary for its intensity. He often said he wanted to eclipse Jerry Rice's greatness, an audacious goal, but one that revealed his extreme confidence in himself. The Bengals continued to struggle in Johnson's first 2 years, going 6-10 in 2001 and a dismal 2-14 in 2002. Yet amid the chaos, there was no questioning Johnson's drive. He literally slept in the players' lounge at Paul Brown Stadium for stretches of his first 2 seasons, wanting to be the first player in and the last one out. While the team as a whole floundered, Johnson's individual growth became apparent, and he showed flashes of brilliance that the Bengal fans had rarely seen in prior years. In 2003, Marvin Lewis took over as the Bengals head coach, bringing a more disciplined culture to a team that had long lacked it. Johnson thrived, relishing the structure while maintaining his trademark swagger. Even though Cincinnati began the 2003 season at a disappointing 1-4, the wide receiver found a turning point following a frustrating overtime loss to the Buffalo Bills in Week 5. Furious with his own performance, Johnson wrote a $100,000 check to offensive coordinator Bob Bratkowski and told him to cash it if he underperformed in the upcoming game against the Baltimore Ravens. Inspired by that pledge, or perhaps fear losing $100,000, Johnson exploded for 130 yards and an electrifying 82-yard touchdown versus Baltimore's vaunted defense. Bratkowski tore up the check the next day. Johnson ended 2003 by breaking the Bengals' single-season receiving yardage record for the first time, quickly signaling his arrival as a true #1 receiver. The confidence he exuded matched his productivity, and fans began to see that he might actually spearhead a cultural turnaround for the franchise. He talked a big game, but he was backing it up, step by step. Johnson's emergence in the NFL wasn't just about racking up receiving yards. It was about his colorful personality exploding on the national stage. He was the king of one-liners, trash-talking defenders at the line of scrimmage, in the middle of routes, and even after the whistle. Some defensive backs, like Hall of Famer Ty Law, recall feeling stunned by Johnson's mid-route chatter, which included confident boasts about how open he was about to become. One of his most famous pranks occurred before a game against the Cleveland Browns in 2004, when he mailed bottles of Pepto-Bismol to their entire secondary. The implication? They'd be sick trying to cover him. Though some fans and analysts saw this as a silly gimmick, It highlighted Johnson's particular brand of psychological warfare. Yet the trick wasn't purely comedic. He also matched those theatrics with jaw-dropping plays, making these stunts harder to criticize. Perhaps the most memorable creative venture came in 2005, when he publicly introduced his Who Covered 85 in 2005 checklist. Each week, he listed the top 5 defensive backs on the upcoming opposing team, leaving a space to record whether they successfully contained him or if he had torched them. Head coach Marvin Lewis practically begged him to stop, worrying it might provoke opponents, but Johnson saw it as an essential motivator, a playful expression of unshakable confidence. In that 2005 season, the Bengals snapped a 15-year streak without a playoff berth, and Johnson led the AFC with 1,432 receiving yards. His playful brand of arrogance and unstoppable route running seemed to align perfectly with the team's resurgence. By this point, Johnson was a mainstay in NFL highlight reels, not just for the long touchdowns, but also for what he did immediately afterward. He famously performed a river dance in the end zone, igniting the crowd and simultaneously irritating league officials who were trying to clamp down on elaborate celebrations. Another time, he brought a pylon onto the field and used it like a golf club, complete with a Tiger Woods fist pump to complete the imaginary putt. He also once dropped to a knee and proposed to a cheerleader, a tongue-in-cheek moment that showed how far he would go to entertain. Despite the NFL's increasingly strict rules regarding excessive celebration, Johnson continued to push boundaries. He resuscitated a football using mock CPR. He wore a faux Hall of Fame jacket that read Future HOF 20. On Christmas Eve 2005, he grabbed a Santa bag and threw gifts into the stands after scoring, a whimsical moment that exemplified how much he enjoyed making crowds laugh. While some coaches and opponents grumbled, fans largely ate it up. Yeah, the NFL was a business, but Johnson made it clear that it could and should still be fun. However, a first-round playoff exit that season tempered the excitement, and the Bengals endured another shaky campaign in 2006. That year, Johnson suffered a minor slump early in the season. Searching for a jolt, he introduced a new persona in honor of NFL Spanish Heritage Month, Ochocinco, a playful, though grammatically incorrect, version of 85 in Spanish. The nickname stuck like glue. The story of how Ochocinco became official is a testament to Johnson's irreverent genius for publicity. Initially, it started as a casual nickname, but it reinvigorated his brand. In a Week 10 game against the San Diego Chargers in 2006, he put on a performance for the ages, exploding for 260 yards and 2 touchdowns. Johnson would later say that this game, above all others, marked the peak of his career. He maintained such a fondness for that record-setting total that he still sometimes tips restaurant servers exactly $260, $1 per yard, for exceptional service. In 2007, he started to brand himself Future HOF by wearing a custom-made jacket. While some fans felt it was premature, Johnson didn't care. He reiterated that surpassing Jerry Rice's lofty benchmarks was his ultimate goal. A particularly memorable moment came during a shootout in Cleveland, where Johnson caught 2 touchdowns and amassed over 200 yards receiving. After his second score, he leapt into the infamous dog pound, where Browns fans wasted no time showering him with beer and booze. Johnson loved it, positive or negative. He thrived on the energy. That same game in Cleveland saw him break the Bengals' all-time receiving yards record, previously held by Isaac Curtis. In quick succession, Johnson would also break several other franchise records, including most receptions and most receiving touchdowns. Over the 2007 season, he once again surpassed 1,400 yards, rewriting his own single-season record. Though the Bengals struggled to recapture the playoff magic of 2005, Johnson stood firm as the franchise's marquee player, the face of the team on magazine covers and in NFL commercials. Emboldened by his popularity, Johnson legally changed his last name to Ochocinco in August 2008. The impetus stemmed from numerous fines levied by the NFL for uniform violations. He theorized that if he changed his name, the league would be forced to put Ochocinco on the back of his jersey, defying the expectations of fans and league executives alike. Critics called it a foolish move, pointing out that Ochocinco wasn't even correct Spanish for 85. Johnson, however, merely shrugged off the controversy, seeing it as part of the show. Suddenly, the comedic stunts were viewed less charitably. Losing has a way of magnifying everything that goes wrong. In 2009, the Bengals bounced back to a 10-6 record, winning the AFC North. Ochocinco brought a new catchphrase into the spotlight: "Child, please." a polite way to tell naysayers they could keep quiet. That year in a preseason game, he lined up as a kicker, nailing an extra point in one of the strangest and most memorable preseason moments in franchise history. During the regular season, he found the end zone consistently, performing comedic celebrations like wearing a sombrero and poncho on the sidelines after a touchdown. Though the Bengals made the playoffs again in 2009, they were eliminated by the New York Jets and rookie quarterback Mark Sanchez. The deciding factor in that loss was Darrelle Revis, a lockdown corner who kept Ochocinco to a mere 28 yards. Eager for an offensive spark, Cincinnati's front office went big, signing Terrell Owens prior to the 2010 season. Dubbed Batman and Robin, the duo was expected to launch the Bengals from playoff hopeful to Super Bowl contender, yet the experiment went off the rails fast. Despite T.O. posting decent stats, the Bengals sank to a 4-12 record, and the partnership was plagued by inefficiency and sporadic drama. By season's end, it was clear that Ochocinco's time with Cincinnati was running short. His stunts, once tolerated because of wins and yardage, now felt like added baggage for a losing team. Chad Johnson, and by extension Chad Ochocinco, was a player who refused to let football become too serious. For all the controversies from the name change to the Pepto-Bismol deliveries, his central legacy remains. He was a supremely talented wide receiver who made football fun for a generation of fans. He embraced an era where big personalities could align with big plays, forging a path that countless young players would follow. Whether one remembers him as a clownish sideshow or an electrifying athlete with Hall of Fame aspirations, Chad Johnson will forever hold a place in NFL lore. He taught us that football at its best is part high-level athletic performance and part entertainment spectacle. He delivered both in copious amounts.